The silence in the crowded saloon of Silver Creek, Colorado fell like a sudden thunderclap when Helena Frost opened her mouth to order a simple glass of water. Her melodic Hungarian accent flowed through the room, causing every head to turn and every eye to lock on the young woman who had arrived just yesterday on the dusty afternoon coach from Denver. It was 1876, and in this remote mining town, a foreign voice was as rare as a cool breeze in August. "What was that, girlie? You speaking some kind of Injun talk?" called out a red-faced miner from the corner, his laughter cutting through the silence like a knife. Helena's cheeks flushed crimson as she clutched her small leather bag tighter to her chest. At 22, she had traveled across an ocean and half a continent to reach this place, answering an advertisement for a schoolteacher position. The journey had drained nearly every cent to her name, and now, standing in this saloon while waiting for the town mayor, she felt utterly alone. "I asked for water, please," she repeated, trying to soften her accent, but the harder she tried, the more pronounced it became. The barkeep, a man with hands like leather and eyes that had seen too many bar fights, slid a glass toward her without comment, but his expression betrayed a mixture of curiosity and disdain. "Water? In a saloon?" Another voice joined in. "Maybe where you're from. Ladies don't know what saloons are for." This brought another round of laughter, harsher this time. Helena took the glass with trembling fingers. She had been warned about the Wild West, about its lawlessness and rough ways, but no one had told her about this casual cruelty toward strangers. "I think," came a deep voice from the doorway, silencing the room once more, "that the lady's voice is the sweetest sound I've heard in these parts for a mighty long time." Helena turned, her water forgotten, to see a tall figure silhouetted against the bright afternoon sun. As he stepped inside, his features came into focus: broad shoulders beneath a dust-covered denim jacket, a weathered Stetson pushed back on his head, and eyes the color of a summer sky. He moved with the easy confidence of a man accustomed to hard work and hard country. "Quinn Thornton," he said, tipping his hat slightly as he approached. "I handle cattle for the Double R ranch north of town." His voice was gentle but carried enough authority that the miners who had been mocking Helena suddenly found their drinks fascinating. "Helena Frost," she replied, her accent wrapping around the syllables of her name like silk. "I am new schoolteacher for Silver Creek." Quinn smiled, and the warmth of it reached his eyes. "Well, Miss Frost, welcome to our little corner of Colorado. Don't mind these fellas, most of them haven't heard a civilized voice since they left their mama's homes." The barkeep coughed. "Quinn, you want your usual?" "Not today, Tom. I'm just passing through on my way back from delivering a message to the telegraph office." Quinn turned back to Helena. "Are you waiting for someone, Miss Frost?" "Mayor Williams," she replied. "He is to show me schoolhouse and lodgings." Quinn frowned slightly. "Mayor's been called away to Denver on some urgent business. Left yesterday on the same coach that must have brought you in. Didn't anyone tell you?" Helena felt her heart sink. "No," she whispered. "No one told me." Quinn seemed to understand immediately the predicament. She was new to town, no contacts, and now her official welcome nowhere to be found. He considered for a moment, then nodded decisively. "Miss Esther runs the boarding house for ladies. She's a good woman, church-going and proper. I'll take you there, if you'd allow it. The schoolhouse can wait until tomorrow." Helena hesitated. In her homeland, going anywhere with a strange man would be unthinkable. But here, in this foreign place where she already felt so adrift, Quinn Thornton's kind eyes and respectful manner seemed like the only safe harbor in a storm. "Thank you, Mr. Thornton. I would appreciate that very much." As they stepped out onto the wooden boardwalk, Helena felt the stares of the saloon patrons following them. Quinn offered his arm in a gentlemanly fashion, and after a moment's hesitation, she took it. His forearm felt solid beneath her fingers, reassuring in its strength. "Don't worry about those fellows back there," Quinn said as they walked down the dusty main street. "Silver Creek's growing fast with the silver strikes in the mountains. Brings in all sorts good and bad. But there are plenty of decent folk here too." Helena nodded, taking in the rough-hewn buildings that lined the street. Men in worn work clothes moved purposefully from store to store, while a few women in practical calico dresses carried baskets of goods. It was all so different from the elegant stone buildings and cobbled streets of Budapest. "You have come far," Miss Frost, Quinn observed. Hungary, is it? I recognize the accent. Had a Hungarian cook on a cattle drive once. Best goulash I ever tasted. Helena looked at him in surprise. You know of Hungary? And goulash? Quinn chuckled. I may be just a cowboy, but I listen when people talk. And I never forget a good meal. His eyes crinkled at the corners when he smiled, lines etched by sun and wind and, Helena thought, by laughter too. My father was professor of literature, Helena said, feeling suddenly compelled to share something of herself with this kind stranger. He taught me English from books, but books do not prepare for. She gestured around her. For this. No, I don't suppose they do, Quinn agreed. But you're brave to come all this way on your own. That counts for something around here. They stopped in front of a 2-story white clapboard house with green shutters and a small, neat garden. A wooden sign proclaimed it Miss Esther's boarding house for ladies of respectable character. Here we are, Quinn said. Miss Esther will take good care of you. And if you need anything at all, you send word to the Double R Ranch. It's about 5 miles north. Helena felt a sudden reluctance to part from this man who had shown her the first real kindness since her arrival. Thank you, Mr. Thornton. I will not forget your kindness. Quinn tipped his hat again. It's just Quinn, Miss Frost. And in Silver Creek, we look after our own. You're one of us now. As he turned to leave, Helena found her voice again. Quinn, she called softly, the name feeling strange but pleasant on her tongue. Why did you help me? In the saloon? He paused and looked back, his expression thoughtful. Because when you spoke, it reminded me that there's a whole big world out there beyond these mountains. And because no one deserves to be mocked for something that makes them special. With a final nod, he continued down the street toward where his horse was hitched. Helena watched him go, a curious warmth spreading through her chest despite the cool mountain air. Then, squaring her shoulders, she turned to face Miss Esther's boarding house and whatever new challenges awaited her in this strange new world. The following morning, Helena stood before the schoolhouse, a simple one-room building with rows of rough-hewn desks and a pot-bellied stove in the corner. Mayor Williams was still absent, but the town clerk, a harried man named Mr. Perkins, had provided her with the key and a hastily scribbled list of her duties. School term starts Monday next, he'd informed her. You'll have about 20 children, ages 6 to 16. Town provides the building and your salary. Books are scarce, so make do with what you find. Now alone in the silent schoolroom, Helena ran her fingers along the teacher's desk, a solid oak piece that had seen better days. Chalk dust coated every surface, and the blackboard behind the desk was cracked in one corner. But it was hers, her domain, her opportunity to build a new life. A soft knock at the open door startled her. Standing in the doorway was a woman in her 40s, her brown hair streaked with gray and pulled back in a severe bun. Her dress was plain but immaculately pressed, and she carried a wicker basket covered with a checkered cloth. Miss Frost? I'm Abigail Howard, head of the school board. I thought you might appreciate some lunch and perhaps some company. Helena smiled gratefully. Please, come in. I am very happy to meet you. Mrs. Howard set her basket on one of the student desks and began unpacking it. I must apologize for the mayor's absence, and for not meeting you at the coach yesterday. There was some confusion about your arrival date. It is no problem, Helena assured her, though in truth, it had been a very difficult first day. Mr. Quinn Thornton was kind enough to help me find lodging. Mrs. Howard's eyebrows rose slightly. Quinn Thornton? Well, I suppose there are worse men who could have come to your aid. He has a reputation as a gentleman, at least. Something in her tone made Helena curious. You do not approve of him? Mrs. Howard handed Helena a sandwich wrapped in waxed paper. It's not that I don't approve. Quinn is well respected as a ranch foreman. He's honest and hardworking. But, she hesitated, he's not exactly the sort of acquaintance a schoolteacher would normally cultivate. Cowhands lead rough lives, Miss Frost. And our schoolteacher must be above reproach in all things. Helena unwrapped her sandwich slowly, considering this. In my country, we have saying, judge man not by his boots, but by where they have walked. Mrs. Howard looked startled, then gave a small laugh. Well said, Miss Frost. Perhaps you'll do well here after all. She glanced around the schoolroom. This place needs work before the children arrive. I'll send word to some of the mothers we can organize a cleaning day. Thank you, Helena said. I would appreciate the help. As they ate, Mrs. Howard outlined the expectations for the school term, the subjects to be covered, the special considerations for some of the children, the importance of strict discipline. Helena listened carefully, making mental notes, but part of her mind kept drifting back to Quinn Thornton and his kind eyes. The next few days passed in a flurry of activity. Helena threw herself into preparing the schoolhouse, grateful for the assistance of several local mothers who arrived with buckets, mops, and determined expressions. They worked alongside her, scrubbing floors and washing windows, and if they noticed her accent, they made no comment beyond asking her to occasionally repeat herself. On Sunday morning, Helena attended services at the small white church that served as Silver Creek's only house of worship. She sat near the back, conscious of the curious glances sent her way, and tried to focus on Reverend Miller's sermon rather than the whispers that occasionally drifted to her ears. Heard she's from some foreign country. Mayor hired her without meeting her first. Strange accent, isn't it? Can barely understand a word. As the congregation filed out after the service, Helena found herself facing a gauntlet of introductions. She smiled and nodded, struggling to remember names and relationships, until a familiar voice cut through the chatter. "Miss Frost, good to see you settling in." Quinn Thornton stood a few feet away, dressed in his Sunday best, a clean white shirt, dark vest, and trousers that, while not new, were well maintained. His normally unruly brown hair was combed neatly, though a stubborn lock fell across his forehead. "Mr. Thornton," Helena acknowledged, aware of the sudden interest from those around them. "Yes, I am settling well, thank you." "School all ready for tomorrow?" "As ready as possible." The mothers were very helpful with cleaning. Quinn nodded. "Children around here need education. Most of their parents never had much schooling themselves." He glanced at the people nearby, some of whom were making little effort to hide their eavesdropping. "Would you care to join me for Sunday dinner at the hotel restaurant? They do a fine roast beef." Helena hesitated, remembering Mrs. Howard's warning about appearances. But the prospect of eating alone at Miss Esther's boarding house, where the other residents, two seamstresses and an elderly widow, tended to keep to themselves, was not appealing. "I would be honored," she said finally. Quinn offered his arm, and they walked the short distance to the Silver Creek Hotel, the only two-story building on the main street apart from the saloon. Inside, the dining room was already half full with families and couples enjoying their Sunday meal. The hotel owner, a portly man named Mr. Jenkins, showed them to a small table by the window. "Miss Frost, a pleasure to have our new schoolmarm dining with us today," he said with a warm smile. "And Quinn, good to see you cleaned up for once." Quinn laughed good-naturedly. "Even cowboys scrub up on occasion, Jenkins." Once seated, Helena found herself relaxing in Quinn's company. He had a gift for conversation, asking questions about her homeland and her journey without prying, sharing stories of life on the ranch that made her laugh despite herself. "So there I was," he said, eyes twinkling as he recounted a tale. "Halfway up the mountain with a stubborn heifer who refused to move another step, night falling fast, and a storm rolling in. That's when I learned that sometimes the only way forward is to change direction completely." "What did you do?" Helena asked, fascinated. "I sat down right there on the trail, took out my harmonica, and played her a lullaby my mother used to sing." Quinn grinned. "That cow listened like she was at the opera, then got up and followed me down the mountain like we were old friends." Helena laughed, a clear, musical sound that turned heads throughout the dining room. "You are very resourceful, Quinn Thornton." "Have to be, in this country," he replied, his expression growing more serious. "The West doesn't forgive many mistakes." Their conversation was interrupted by the arrival of their food, generous portions of roast beef, potatoes, and vegetables. As they ate, Helena became aware of glances from other diners, some curious, others disapproving. "People are staring," she murmured. Quinn followed her gaze. "Let them. Most folks around here have never been further than Denver. Someone like you, educated, traveled, you're as exotic to them as a peacock in a chicken coop. Is that good thing or bad thing?" "Depends on the chicken," Quinn replied with a wink that made her cheeks warm. After dinner, Quinn walked Helena back to her boarding house. The late afternoon sun cast long shadows across the dusty street, and a cool breeze carried the scent of pine from the surrounding mountains. "I have kept you from your ranch duties too long," Helena said as they approached Miss Esther's front gate. Worth every minute, Quinn assured her. He hesitated, then added, I'd like to call on you again, if you'd permit it. Helena felt a flutter in her chest that had nothing to do with nervousness. I would like that very much. Good, Quinn said simply. He tipped his hat. Good luck tomorrow with the children. They can be a wild bunch, but they've got good hearts. As Helena watched him walk away, she felt a curious mixture of anticipation and trepidation. Tomorrow she would face her first classroom of American children, a challenge that had seemed daunting even before she'd left Hungary. But somehow, knowing that Quinn Thornton believed in her made the prospect less frightening. The first day of school dawned clear and cool. Helena arrived early, arranging books and slates, writing a welcome message on the blackboard in her careful script. At precisely 8 o'clock, she rang the school bell that hung outside the door, its clear tone echoing through the town. Children appeared from all directions, some running eagerly, others dragging their feet, a few clutching their mothers' hands. They filed into the schoolroom, their eyes wide as they took in their new teacher with her different clothes and different way of speaking. Good morning, children, Helena said, trying to project confidence. I am Miss Frost, your new teacher. A wave of whispers swept through the room. One small boy in the front row raised his hand. Yes. Helena acknowledged him. Miss, why do you talk funny? He asked bluntly. Before Helena could respond, an older girl hissed. Shut up, Tommy. That's rude. Helena took a deep breath. It is a good question, Tommy. I talk differently because I come from faraway country called Hungary. Just as you might notice someone from Boston or New Orleans speaks differently than people in Silver Creek. My pa says foreigners shouldn't be teaching American children, announced a boy of about 12, his expression defiant. Helena felt her heart sink, but kept her expression calm. And what is your name? Billy Tanner. Well, Billy Tanner, perhaps by end of school year, you will decide for yourself what you think. Now, let us begin with roll call. The morning was challenging. Helena struggled to maintain order while also making herself understood. Some children made deliberate fun of her accent, repeating her words in exaggerated mimicry when they thought she wasn't looking. Others simply looked confused when she gave instructions. By noon, when she dismissed them for lunch, Helena felt exhausted and disheartened. She sat at her desk, fighting back tears of frustration, wondering if she had made a terrible mistake in coming to this place. A soft knock at the door made her look up. Quinn stood there, holding his hat in his hands. Thought you might like some company for lunch, he said, stepping inside. Brought you something from Mrs. Ruiz at the ranch, authentic tamales. Best food in the county. Helena tried to smile, but her lips trembled. Quinn's expression immediately shifted to concern. What's wrong? The children giving you trouble? They think I am stupid because of how I speak, Helena admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. Maybe they are right. Maybe I cannot teach American children. Quinn set the food package on her desk and pulled up a student chair, sitting down to face her. Now you listen to me, Helena Frost. You crossed an ocean and half a continent to be here. You speak at least 2 languages, which is 2 more than most folks around here. Those children are lucky to have you. But if they will not listen, they'll listen, Quinn said firmly. Children are like wild horses, they test boundaries. Show them you're not easily thrown, and they'll come to respect you. Helena looked into his earnest blue eyes and felt something strengthen inside her. You have great confidence in me. I do, he said simply. Now eat these tamales before they get cold. Mrs. Ruiz would never forgive me. They shared the meal, Quinn telling her stories about his own school days that made her laugh despite her worries. When the children began returning from lunch, he stood to leave. Remember, he said quietly, your voice is beautiful just as it is. Don't let anyone make you believe otherwise. The afternoon went somewhat better. Helena introduced a geography lesson, using her knowledge of Europe to captivate even the most reluctant students. When she described the mighty Danube River and the ancient castles that overlooked it, even Billy Tanner leaned forward in his seat, momentarily forgetting his hostility. Days turned into weeks, and slowly, Helena found her place in Silver Creek. The children gradually became accustomed to her accent, and as they discovered her knowledge and kindness, most came to respect her. There were still difficult moments, notes from parents questioning her methods, whispers when she walked down the street, occasional mockery of her pronunciation, but she faced them with growing confidence. Quinn became a regular visitor, sometimes bringing small gifts, wildflowers from the mountainside, a book of American poetry he'd found in a Denver bookshop, candy for her to share with the students. Their friendship deepened, their conversations ranging from literature to philosophy to the simple pleasures of everyday life. One crisp October afternoon, as the aspen trees blazed gold against the mountainsides, Quinn invited Helena to ride with him to see a special place. Miss Esther raised her eyebrows at the invitation but said nothing as Helena set out, wearing her best riding skirt and a borrowed pair of boots. Quinn led her along a winding trail that climbed steadily through pine forests and meadows still bright with late wildflowers. Helena, who had learned to ride as a child on her grandfather's estate in the Hungarian countryside, kept pace easily, delighting in the strength and spirit of the mare Quinn had brought for her. "You ride well," he observed as they paused to rest the horses beside a small stream. "Most Eastern ladies I've met can barely stay in the saddle." Helena smiled. "My grandfather believed girls should ride as well as boys. He was very progressive in his thinking. Sounds like a wise man." Quinn dismounted and helped Helena down, his hands strong and sure at her waist. For a moment, they stood very close, and Helena could see flecks of gold in his blue eyes, feel the warmth of him even through her riding jacket. Quinn cleared his throat and stepped back. "It's just a little further. We can walk the horses from here." They followed the stream uphill for another quarter-mile before emerging into a high meadow ringed by aspens. The view was breathtaking, mountains rolling away in all directions, the town of Silver Creek a tiny cluster of buildings far below, and the vast Colorado sky stretching endlessly above. "Oh," Helena breathed, "it is magnificent." Quinn watched her face, his expression soft. "This is my thinking place. I come here when life gets too complicated down below." "And is life complicated now?" Helena asked, turning to face him. Quinn met her gaze steadily. "It is. I find myself thinking about things I never thought I'd want. A home that's more than just a bunkhouse. A future that's about more than the next cattle drive." Helena's heart quickened. "What changed?" "You did," he said simply. "You arrived in Silver Creek with your books and your accent and your courage, and suddenly everything looked different." Helena took a step closer to him. "Different in good way or bad way?" "Good," Quinn said, his voice dropping lower. "Definitely good." When he kissed her, it felt like coming home to a place she'd never been before. His lips were gentle but sure, his hand cradling her face as if she were something precious. Helena leaned into him, feeling the solid strength of him, breathing in the scent of leather and pine and something indefinably Quinn. When they finally broke apart, both slightly breathless, Quinn rested his forehead against hers. "I've been wanting to do that since the first day in the saloon," he admitted. Helena smiled. "I have been wanting you to do that since then as well." They sat together in the meadow as the afternoon light turned golden, talking of their pasts and their hopes. Quinn spoke of his childhood in Missouri, his father's death in the war, his mother's remarriage to a man who had no use for his stepson. He told her of his journey west at 16, the years of hard work and wandering before he found a home at the Double R Ranch. Helena shared her own story, her sheltered upbringing in Budapest, her father's insistence on education for his daughter despite social conventions, the series of tragedies that had left her alone in the world with nothing but her education and determination. "When my father died," she explained, "there was little money left. My mother's family never approved of their marriage, and they would not help. I saw advertisement for teacher in American West, and I thought, why not? What do I have to lose?" Quinn took her hand, his calloused fingers gentle against her skin. "Their loss is Silver Creek's gain, and mine." As the sun began to sink toward the mountains, they reluctantly mounted their horses for the return journey. The ride back was quiet, both lost in their own thoughts and the newfound awareness between them. At the edge of town, Quinn slowed his horse. "Helena, I need to say something." She reined in beside him, noting the serious set of his jaw. "What is it?" "I'm not a wealthy man. The Double R pays me well enough, and I've saved some over the years. I own a small piece of land up north, a ways nothing grand, but good grazing, a creek running through it. Someday I plan to build my own ranch there." Helena nodded, uncertain where this was leading. "What I'm trying to say," Quinn continued, is that I can't offer you the kind of life you might have had in Europe. But if you could see yourself sharing a future with a man like me, well, I'd work every day to make you happy." Helena felt tears prick at her eyes. "Quinn Thornton, are you proposing marriage to me?" He looked momentarily flustered. "I suppose I am, though I meant to do it more elegantly." He dismounted and came to stand beside her horse, looking up at her with earnest eyes. "Helena Frost, I love you. Your voice, your mind, your heart. Will you marry me?" Helena slid from her saddle into his waiting arms. "Yes," she said, her accent wrapping around the word like a caress. "Yes, I will marry you." Their announcement caused a stir in Silver Creek. Some, like Mrs. Howard and Reverend Miller, offered cautious congratulations. Others were less supportive, particularly among the town's more established families who had hoped the new schoolteacher might make a match with one of their sons. Billy Tanner's father, a prominent businessman, led the opposition, suggesting to the school board that a teacher planning to marry a cowboy could hardly serve as a proper example for impressionable children. The board called a special meeting to discuss Helena's future. Helena sat before them, her back straight and her head high, as Mr. Tanner outlined his concerns. "Furthermore," he concluded, "Miss Frost's foreign ways and difficulty with proper English make her unsuitable as it is. This inappropriate attachment to a common cowhand only confirms my belief that she should be replaced before the children's education suffers further." Mrs. Howard, who had become one of Helena's strongest allies, spoke next. "Mr. Tanner, I have observed Miss Frost's classroom regularly. The children are learning more than they ever did under Mr. Peterson. As for her accent, I would remind you that many of our greatest Americans, including Alexander Hamilton, spoke with foreign accents." "And Quinn Thornton," added Mr. Jenkins from the hotel, who also served on the board, "is hardly a common cowhand. He's the most respected foreman in the county, and the double R wouldn't run half as well without him." The debate continued, with opinions divided. Finally, Helena asked permission to speak. "I came to America because I believed it was land of opportunity, where person is judged by character and hard work, not by birth or accent," she said, her voice clear despite her nervousness. "I have worked hard to teach your children not just reading and arithmetic, but understanding of wider world. My marriage to Quinn Thornton will not change my commitment to education." There was a moment of silence when she finished. Then, from the back of the room, a voice spoke up. "Miami couldn't read a word before Miss Frost came. Now she reads to me every night from her school books." Helena turned to see Mrs. Collins, a widow who worked at the laundry, standing with her hands clasped tightly before her. "And my Tommy," added another parent, "used to hate figures. Now he helps me keep the accounts for our farm." One by one, parents stood to defend Helena, speaking of improvements they'd seen in their children, of enthusiasm for learning that hadn't existed before. Even some who had initially been skeptical of her foreign ways acknowledged the positive changes in the school. When the board finally voted, it was 4-1 in favor of retaining Helena as teacher, with only Mr. Tanner opposing. The condition was set that she would finish the school year, after which her marriage could take place. As spring arrived in the mountains, bringing wildflowers and rushing streams, Helena and Quinn made their plans. The wedding would be held in June, after the school term ended. Quinn had begun construction on a modest house on his land, working evenings and weekends alongside friends from the Double R. Helena continued teaching, her confidence growing daily. The children, even Billy Tanner, had come to accept and respect her, sometimes even defending her accent when visitors to the school made comments. "Miss Frost talks different because she's smart," Tommy Collins informed a drummer passing through town. "She knows words in lots of languages, not just English." May brought the end of the school year and a celebration of the students' achievements. Parents crowded into the schoolhouse to hear recitations and see displayed work. Helena felt a surge of pride as each child demonstrated their learning, their confidence a testament to her efforts. After the last parent and child had departed, Helena remained in the schoolhouse, savoring the quiet and reflecting on the year's journey. The door opened, and Quinn entered, carrying a small package. "Thought I'd find you here," he said, crossing to where she stood by her desk. "Congratulations on a successful school year, Miss Frost." Helena smiled up at him. "Thank you, Mr. Thornton. It has been quite an adventure." "Speaking of adventures," Quinn said, handing her the package. "I brought you something." Helena unwrapped it carefully to find a small leather-bound book. Opening it, she discovered blank pages with only a single inscription on the first page. "For Helena, whose voice will always be the sweetest I have ever heard. Love, Quinn." "A journal," Quinn explained, "for our life together. I thought you might want to write down our story as it unfolds." Helena traced the inscription with her fingertip, too moved to speak for a moment. "Our story," she finally said. "I like sound of that." Quinn took her hands in his. "Do you remember what I told you that first day? That when you spoke, it reminded me there's a whole big world beyond these mountains." Helena nodded. "I never dreamed that world would become part of mine." Quinn continued. "You've brought something to Silver Creek that was missing, not just your knowledge or your different way of seeing things, but your heart. And you," Helena said, "showed me that sometimes home is not a place, but a person who hears music in your voice when others hear only strangeness." Their wedding took place on a perfect June day, with wildflowers decorating the little white church and most of Silver Creek in attendance. Helena wore a gown of ivory silk that Miss Esther and the seamstresses had helped her make, with sprigs of mountain laurel in her hair. Quinn, looking both nervous and proud in a new suit, waited for her at the altar with the ranch foreman as his best man. When Helena spoke her vows, her accent wrapped around the words like a melody, and no one who heard it could doubt the beauty of her voice or the depth of her love. As Reverend Miller pronounced them husband and wife, Quinn kissed her with such tenderness that several women in the congregation dabbed at their eyes. The celebration afterward was held in the town square, with tables laden with food contributed by every household. There was music and dancing, children running with ribbons, and enough goodwill to suggest that Silver Creek had finally, truly accepted Helena as one of their own. As evening fell and lanterns were lit around the square, Quinn led Helena away from the festivities toward where their horses waited. "Ready to see our home, Mrs. Thornton?" he asked, the name still new and wonderful on his lips. Helena nodded, her heart too full for words. They rode in the gathering dusk, following a trail that wound through pine forests until they emerged at a clearing where a small house stood, windows glowing with welcoming light. It was simple but solidly built, with a covered porch across the front and climbing roses already planted beside the steps. Behind it, a barn and corral stood ready for the horses Quinn planned to raise, and beyond stretched meadows that would someday support a small herd of cattle. "It's not much yet," Quinn said as he helped Helena down from her horse, "but we'll build it together, year by year." Helena turned in a slow circle, taking it all in: the house, the land, the mountains rising in the distance, and the man who had given her not just a home, but a sense of belonging. "It is perfect," she said, her voice carrying in the clear mountain air. "It is everything I never knew I wanted." Quinn took her hand and led her toward the house, their house, where a new chapter of their story waited to be written. And as they crossed the threshold together, Helena knew that her voice, once mocked for its difference, had found the place where it would always be cherished for its beauty.